Where's the music?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Florida's #1 hockey podcast, the Cats and Bolts, Stanley Cup champions. 3, 2, 1.
What's happening, guys? Thanks for the intro, Ben. Season 2, episode 39, which means, I guess, Ben, we've done almost 80 episodes-ish of this. I can't believe that. Wednesday after Wednesday after Wednesday. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Obviously, we've got the chats going. Rod is still back in Canada, and he's joining us here. We might as well bring Rod right in to get a little bit of input from him.
Hello, everybody. Some input, some analysis.
He's still got the tools. I love it.
Hey, I'm just trying to make you smile, Serena. For the love of God, everybody's asking me how you're doing after the Panthers won the Stanley Cup in 6. What can you tell them over your Edmonton Oilers? What's the answer for that? How you're doing?
Well, I mean, all right, we're getting into this right off the fucking rip here. And if people are not on here yet, they're missing out. Before I say anything, I'm going to preface it with this. The Florida Panthers absolutely deserve to win the Stanley Cup this year. They were the better team, and anything that I say here has nothing to do with them as a team or their ability. They deserve to win. However, as far as the Oilers are concerned, in my opinion, obviously it's my opinion, it's a bigger story that the Oilers were so bad than it was that Florida was good. I could go on for days about how embarrassing the Edmonton Oilers were. And I'm to the point right now where every single benefit of the doubt that I gave everybody is gone. You don't go into the Stanley Cup Finals for the second year in a row and lose if there's not a significant problem. Now, last year, Edmonton, in my opinion, they were within one goal, so they deserve to win just as much as Florida did. Last year was pretty even. This year was an absolute sham. It was embarrassing, and I'm just completely perplexed as to what the hell actually happened. And more than being perplexed, I'm pissed off. Last year I was sad. This year I'm pissed off. There were too many guys on that team that didn't do a fucking thing. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Bouchard giving the puck up for the first 2 goals yesterday. The first 3 goals that Florida scored were because Edmonton turned the puck over on an unforced error. You can't win a Stanley Cup if you're going to turn the puck over for no reason and then not cover guys when they're in the open. Listen, I'll let you talk and ask some questions because I've got a lot more to say about this and I don't just want to keep popping off. But it is a travesty that the Oilers didn't put up a better fight.
Well, I don't know what happened. Hi, everybody. You didn't let me down. Great start. And so when people say, how are you doing? I'll say that she's angry. How about that? Is that all I'll say?
I would
Last year
say
she was sad. This year she's angry.
Violent is probably the word that covers it right now.
She's violent. That doesn't surprise me. Hi, Kelly Francis. She writes in and says, yes, they do. I'm not sure what she means by that other than that the Panthers deserved to win. I'm sure okay, so here's my perspective. You mentioned that I'm in Canada. I'm up here broadcasting baseball for the summer, and it's great. I'm loving it. Best Stanley Cup ever. It started out that way, right? 3 of the first 4 going to overtime. Could have been a sweep either way, Serena. Let's be honest. And then, literally, what the hell happened? Games 5 and 6 were a drubbing. What does it add up to? 5-2 and 10-3 in the last 2 games. What the hell?
The thing is, everybody after the first 2 games were talking about how this might be the best Stanley Cup. And what did I say? It's been dog shit hockey. It's been dog shit hockey. Everybody's like, but it's so exciting. The hockey was not good. Even there were times where the Panthers were, really good. But here's the problem. Edmonton didn't force them to be that great. The Panthers didn't have to be that great. They just did what they needed to do to win. And that is just as much of a pat on the back for the Panthers as it should be a kick in the ass for the Oilers. Listen, And Kelly's saying that, yes, they deserve to win. Absolutely they did. And I've said this for 2 years on this show. I will give credit where credit is due. And if I feel like a team should have won, then I will straight up say it. I'm not going to hide behind it. Last year, I felt like it could have gone either way. But it is mind-boggling to me that it happened in the first place. Every hockey guy on the planet was like, the Oilers are going to win this. We all said it because of how dominant the Oilers were coming in. And again, this has nothing to do with the Panthers, but the Panthers' play wasn't necessarily the reason the Oilers lost. They didn't just shut them down. The Oilers were dog shit. Somebody from Hockey Night in Canada went to the Oilers practice, and was like, I watched them and how fast they are with their passing and their everything. And they're like, nobody should beat these guys. And then they get into a game and they don't do any of those things.
Well, so sorry to interrupt, but therein is the problem. Shitty when another team comes onto the ice or onto the field. The Panthers were better. So the people that you talked to thought the Oilers were going to win, not the ones I was talking to.
Yeah, but
the
even
Panthers, they did kick their ass.
Even you said the Oilers are going to beat them.
I said going into this series, I had the sense that they had Mo going their way, whatever it was.
The frustrating thing is that the Oilers did not bring to the last series what they brought to the first three. I don't give a shit who they lost to. I don't care what series they lost in. You can't go into a series and not play it. Like, I don't understand. Now it gets to the point where it's like, now it is the coach's fault. Now it is the captain's fault.
Yep.
And the next person that blames the goaltender, I'm going to kick them right in the bag. I am so sick of hearing people talk about blaming Stuart Skinner. I literally saw, and when I say things I've seen and heard, I'm not naming anybody because I don't want this to get back to these people just in case. But I saw somebody from back in Canada who's an Oilers fan who has worked in the media say, why is everybody blaming Bouchard? He had 40-some points. It's Skinner's fault. And I'm like, are you brain damaged? Are you literally stupid? How can you blame the goaltender when every single time the players were left open in front of the net? When you turn the puck over in your own zone, the goalie's screwed no matter what. I don't care how you slice it. There was bad. I mean, Florida was not great defensively last night. They weren't. They just took advantage of their opportunities in the offensive zone. That's all they had to do. And that's all you need to do to win.
You did not have the benefit of watching any of the Hockey Night in Canada broadcasts like I did. And Craig Simpson, who I think you love, Oilers alum, he's the color commentator on CBC Sportsnet Canada broadcast. And he's like, the Panthers are pinning their ears back and coming after him. No defensive shell here, which is what you just said. And I like that. Now, having said all of this, we didn't know going into the series, and that's what was fun about debating on this show, who's got the coaching edge. You said it might be Chris Knobloch. In the end, Paul Maurice coached his pants off. Goaltending, we already knew. We knew. McDavid, Draisaitl, Leon had his overtime winners and so forth, but they did not dominate. Bennett and Marchand did. They got the check in the forwards as well. And they set an NHL record, I'm sure you saw, in time leading in a series. Was set by the 87 Oilers. The Panthers have surpassed it. It wasn't close. You're not saying it was close. You're saying the Oilers didn't show up. They started game one great, and then they did fold. I do want to, and the other thing is, game five, we were talking about this on my daytime show up here, not on Cats and Bolts, but I said they should have started Stuart Skinner. John Cooper would have started Stuart Skinner in game five. Because, Serena, you decide who your guy is, and you stay with your guy. John Cooper does that, and they went away from him. That's my thought. I know not everybody agrees, but Knobloch will have a long summer.
Okay.
The coach of the Oilers on his decisions.
First of all, I didn't say that Knobloch was going to out-coach Paul Maurice. The
No,
first
you said
thing
he might.
I said
I
is
get what you
that
said.
the whole out-coaching thing, I don't really think it came down to the coaching. I don't think that Paul Maurice needed to do anything. I really don't. The players have enough hockey IQ. The Panthers were doing simple things. Getting guys open in the slot and screwing the goaltender. Plain and simple. The goaltending out, The Oilers didn't even challenge Bobrovsky. Bobrovsky didn't have the best series of his life because he didn't need to.
Yeah, sure.
No
argument here.
And like, there were times where I was pissed because when that goal that Marchand scored right off the faceoff, why do you have your slowest defenseman out there with their fastest forward at the same time, right on a center ice faceoff? Why? And secondly, anticipate what is going to happen after the faceoff. If you are in the Stanley Cup final and you are not anticipating a faceoff, you're automatically going to lose. There was just so much from top to bottom that I can't even believe. I'm severely disappointed in Connor McDavid. You want to yell and scream at your team last year and put on a big hoopla and be crying after because your team lost? You should be. This year, you should have other issues. Get out there and do something. And listen, the Panthers put 2 guys on McDavid most of the time. But a good Connor McDavid, nobody's going to stop him. There wasn't that big of a difference between last year and this year as far as the Panthers defensively on McDavid. So he has no excuse. But what happened, what I saw a couple times, especially last night, there were times where McDavid was open by the net. But the problem is he's at the end of a long shift. But also on the power play for Edmonton. Figure out what you want to do. Do you want to dump the puck in and chase on the power play? Or do you want to let McDavid carry it in? Figure it out.
Wow. Those are all coaching issues. So, no, you didn't say that he was going to outcoach Maurice. What you said was he's been in 2 cup finals in less than 2 seasons. That's pretty damn good, right? He'll learn from this. But if there was a coaching battle to be won, it was won by Florida. And by the way, some of the news that I wanted to get to here before we jump back into whatever this is, you don't see the coverage because you're at the game. But right after the game, Bill Zito said on the ice to the Sportsnet crew that he thinks he can find a way to bring back Sam Bennett, Brad Marchand, and Aaron Ekblad. And the reporter turned to him and said, "Oh, with hometown discounts?" And he goes, "Let's just leave it at that." So our last week when we discussed that here had 16,000 views talking about Marchand. Zito thinks that they can get it done. So that's the one thing I wanted to mention. How did you feel about the officiating, by the way? Because I got older fans sending me clips of a high stick last night that wasn't called. I mean, I don't have time for officiating. You know that, but I'll ask you.
There were a lot of missed calls in the series, but by no means was that the difference in the series. There were a lot of missed calls. There was a lot of missed calls, but there were a lot of garbage calls that were called on both sides. And, it's like last night there was a 4-on-4. It perplexes me. Again, the word is perplex, the word of the month. It perplexes me that when Edmonton's 4-on-4, look out. Why all of a sudden when you throw another couple guys out there does Edmonton crumble? The reason Edmonton lost game 5 is as soon as Marchand or Bennett breaks past our defenseman, we literally stop playing, and I don't understand it. But when Edmonton's out there on a power play, again, if they can get set up and they can do what they need to do, great. Then they get in there and they have, a good power play. But when they're dicking around and not sure what they're going to do and this and that, and they're screwing around with the puck, like, guys, you had all season to figure this out. I literally just don't understand. It was just...
Well, yeah. And so I will swing this back around to a Panthers perspective for a second, but a hockey guy that and I won't name here, texted me today. And he goes, "I seriously question the hockey IQ of 2 and 25. And he's referring to Evan Bouchard and Darnell Nurse. So the Oilers have a hell of a lot of questions. I guess I'll ask you this. I didn't think they'd get back to the Stanley Cup final this year. So, because they're asking up here, is the window closing or is it closed? If I didn't think they'd get back this year, I don't know why I wouldn't think they'd get back next year. Everybody's under contract, right? But how would you answer that?
Are we talking about the hockey IQ thing or?
Either or, both. I'm just saying,
okay.
There's some guys on that team that people think are tree stumps, yet they've been in 2 straight Stanley Cups with those guys. So,
listen,
I'm just kind of tired of hearing everybody's bitching, but that's what this show is for. So,
well, now it's my turn to bitch. So
it has been for the last 20 minutes.
Here's the thing. Evan Bouchard is god-awful, and every single Oilers fan on the planet, except for a couple, thinks so. It's not Oilers fans being dramatic. Oilers fans have hockey IQ. They can see what the problem is. And I've been bitching about Darnell Nurse for 5 years. What people are pissed about with Darnell Nurse is that he takes up a huge chunk of the salary. I've been saying for a long time, get rid of this guy. But guess what? No one's going to pick him up because he's not worth what he's getting paid. So now the Oilers are going to be stuck with him. And going back up in the comments, Hockey Princess, guys, go listen to her podcast. She covers the Blackhawks. Do you anticipate a goalie shakeup in the offseason? There should be, because the Oilers need something. I'm not saying get rid of Skinner. That's not what I'm saying. But on the same subject, if the Oilers could get some idiot team to pick up Darnell Nurse and get rid of that huge contract, that opens us up to be able to get a goaltender or a different defenseman. You know, I don't blame Skinner. I really don't think any of this was his fault. And the fans were hard on him and whatever. And I don't understand it, because the real problem, if you're going to give up, Evan Bouchard, like I said, he turned the puck over both times. Oilers brass last night, first intermission, says to me, we outplayed him, we outshot him, but fucking Bouchard. Exactly. Not just me. Everybody is saying that. Bouchard needs to go.
Why is he on the team? Literally, I
don't know. This. You're asking, like, okay, I had a really good conversation with Gene Principe yesterday. And I said, Gino, I do not understand. How come I can sit on my couch as a person who's never played in the National Hockey League and be able to look and go, how come they're not hitting more? Because when the Oilers hit, they play better and they win. They came out last night hitting and took control. They stopped hitting. But Gino goes, you're absolutely correct. I couldn't agree more. And I'm like,
this is the Oilers broadcast host, folks, for those that don't know.
Yeah, for Sportsnet. And I told him, I was like, listen, I don't get to listen to, you guys. And he was telling me about certain things other people were saying on the panel and whatever. And he's like, you need to go in that dressing room and let him know, because everything you're saying is right. And I'm like, there's very few people in that building last night who have been as invested in this team as me and Gene Principe and Paul Coffey. Nobody else. Even Paul Coffey wasn't there in 2006 when we lost in Game 7. The players weren't. So cry me a river that you lost. Well, guess what? For all the players, when you guys are long gone, the fans are still here, living and dying by this team. So get your shit together and do something. It's the players' fault they lost, period. It's embarrassing.
Yeah. Nobody's arguing with that on either fan base. So, and the question was, do they get back next year? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. They got a lot of questions. And when you don't, here's the thing. Bob went into his 64th consecutive start. 64 straight starts for Sergei Bobrovsky going into Game 6. And the Oilers didn't even know who they were going to start. They didn't announce it until the night before the game or the morning of. So they got big problems, which, by the way, I do want to get it back to the Panthers for a second. And Matthew Tkachuk's assertion that this is a dynasty that the Panthers have right now, because that's what everybody's raging about. But can I submit this to you as an Oiler fan who clearly is emotional about it? Carter Hart's contract is up. He's one of the 8, as we say in Canada, currently on trial for sexual assault allegations back in 2018 while a junior hockey player. If they get off, and I feel like it's like a 50-50 chance, but if they get off, Serena, he's from Edmonton. Would you sign him? He's that good. Philly's not. He's been in Philly. But would you absorb the PR nightmare and sign Carter Hart?
There are way bigger issues in Edmonton as far as what could be a PR or a team nightmare in the media than what Carter Hart may or may not have done in the past. These people don't care. If he's going to stop the puck, put him in. But Carter Hart, in my opinion, the longer he played in Philly, I feel like the more wishy-washy he got. He's a great goaltender, but I don't know To me, if the Oilers would sign him or whatever, it would have nothing to do with like the personal stuff. I really don't care about stuff like that. But again, I've defended Joel Quenneville and, whoever else, but I don't really care. I don't think Skinner necessarily has to go because I don't think Skinner's the problem, but Edmonton needs something.
Sure. So
Something.
the Hockey Princess podcast, our friend from Chicago, literally asked, will there be a shakeup? And what I'm saying is there are people saying this could be it. You say he got bad near the end of his time in Philly, but guess what? Everybody does. That's what happens with dysfunctional organizations, and that's what the Philadelphia Flyers are. That's what happens with the Chicago Bears. That's what happens with the Cleveland Browns. Don't blame the goalie. He came in as a piss cutter on fire, and they put out his fire. Sergei Bobrovsky couldn't win there either. Now, he was young, but you get what I'm saying. It's a tough market. And Carter Hart's never going to go through anything harder than what he's been going through right now. So
listen,
I'm just throwing it out there for discussion.
Could Carter Hart handle the pressure in Edmonton? I don't know. You look at Bobrovsky and the Kachucks and even Paul Maurice, there is zero pressure playing here. Zero. If they win, great. If they lose, who cares? Move on. Like, there's no pressure. And even in Philadelphia, there's a lot of pressure to win. That is a storied franchise. And I don't blame them. But that goes to say, like, any goaltender, any player playing in a Canadian market, there's just a lot, even more pressure there. So I don't know how he would do. I don't know. What time would tell, I guess.
Tony B writes in, he says, what's up? Back-to-back cup champs, baby. Wayne in BC writes in, he says, I agree with Serena's analysis on the Oilers' power play, but let's face it, the Panthers outplay the Oilers in this series. JC writes in, he says, in no way this series was the goalie's fault. Bob, just like Skinner, let a few muffins in. In fact, Bob's top left was exposed. Bob don't give a shit. As he said on the post-game show, thank you to God for all I have and all that I don't have. Bob is God. End of story. But on the Matthew Tkachuk, people got to understand, he likes to get your goat. You got to watch Matthew Tkachuk. He'll try and slip something by you. And he said on the post-game show last night on Sportsnet, well, we got a dynasty now, 3 straight cup finals. And I'm like, no, you don't. And that's what everybody's talking about. No, you don't. Nice try, Chucky. You don't have a dynasty. Do I even need to ask your opinion on that?
Of course not, but I'm going to give it anyway. Can you just shut your fucking mouth and win with grace? Ever. Can you just win with grace? Or do you have to be such a piece of shit that you're going to try to spout off? You're already in the media. You're already all over social media. Shut up. Like the dynasty talk. Come on. Give me a fucking break. Why are you even talking about this the night you just won the Stanley Cup? Literally, if somebody asked a player that said that, a normal hockey player with some pride would have said, why are you asking me about that right now? We just won the Stanley Cup. Just let us enjoy it. How many times have we seen players say, don't ask me about that right now. This is not the time, when they won. People are asking about free agency and are you going to sign? Shut up. Why was somebody asking Bill Zito about... Guys, they should have been able to just enjoy it, whatever.
Well, that's the way the media is. But I will say this. Zito was specifically asked about those 3. Tkachuk was not asked about a dynasty. He offered it.
That's what I'm saying.
So, right, this is kind of funny. But I understand it. That's his personality. He tries to slip it by you or get your goat. I don't even think he actually believes it's a dynasty, to be honest. I think that's the way that he is. And if you remember Steven Stamkos, when they won 2 in Tampa, he goes, if it's 3, it's a dynasty. He's like, we're about to enter the D word territory. Stamkos knows. And deep down, I think Tkachuk knows.
He totally knows. But again, that shows what a classless player he is. Just move on. Like, you won. Why do you have to be a dick? But the fans here are like, yeah, we have a dynasty. They don't fucking know. Seriously.
I understand.
They're like, yeah, you're right.
Well, it's a sports thing, not just an NHL thing. We had a big debate about that on my show today. What is a dynasty? And pretty much everybody said 3 championships. They don't have to be in a row, but like the Blackhawks, 3 in 5 years, or the Kansas City Chiefs, 3 in 5, 6 years, whatever. It's 3. It's not 2.
Yeah.
Any sport.
If you think about it, there's a lot of teams in the NHL over the last let's say 30 years that have won 2 Stanley Cups in a row. Not for 1 second do I think dynasty. It's just stupid. It's like, I don't even know why we're having this conversation.
Because everybody in Canada is talking about it. So Tony B says, yeah, the questions from the media about the signings was wild. Well, the way they're looking at it, I'm sorry, but as a guy that's been in the business 37 years, is we got Bill Zito right here. When are we going to see him again? Because they should allow him to enjoy it and say, Bill, how did you do this? But to be honest, they've been asking him that all year. So now they're also saying, this is James Duthie from TSN. I know the American audience has no idea who these people are. He would be the Bob Costas of Canada, something close.
Yeah, I guess.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
the biggest host.
Yeah.
I don't know who that would be in the state. Dan Patrick, maybe?
And he goes, similar.
He goes, Brad Marchand is the greatest trade deadline acquisition of all time. And I'm like, you might be caught up in the moment there, but I'm not necessarily saying you're wrong either. It's been pretty damn good.
Listen, after the first period of the first game, and especially after the first game, it was for sure because I talked to my dad the entire second period on the phone of the first game. I said, the 2 best players for Florida are Sam Bennett and Brad Marchand. And it held true the entire series. And my dad's like, that fucking Barkov hasn't done a fucking thing. And Barkov was taking a lot of heat in the media about we need more out of Barkov. I don't want to say Eddie Olchuk, but it might have been him that said that. We need more out of Barkov. But do you? Do you? Because let's be honest, everyone's like, oh, well, Barkov's only got 2 assists. And then, of course, Pomo has to get all defensive. And, oh, well, McDavid doesn't have any goals either. Barkov is not a goal scorer by all stretch of the imagination. So what the Panthers got out of Barkov was exactly what they pay him for. Why was everybody coming after Barkov? He just won the Selke, and now you're going to blast him because you need more out of him? He gave them everything they needed to win because he had Bennett and Marchand doing all the other work.
Yeah, he didn't do much all series statistically, but there was one play there last night, and I'm sure you were paying attention to every shift. I think it was one of Reinhart's 4 goals. I might have been the second or third where Barkov held off the entire team with one hand. He was just what do we call it? I'll just say controlling it, cycling it below the goal line himself, and then flipped it out front to Reinhart, and boop, he topped it home. It was the second or third goal.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
It was.
He does his thing. He's a leader, but we tend to overanalyze. Tony B says, did you all see Benny's 8 more chant? I don't even know what that means. And he goes, I get Zito, but Marchie, I don't know what that means either. Do you know what he's getting at, Tony B?
I'm assuming he's saying about Benny's 8 more. Maybe they were talking about 8 more years, like signing him for 8 more years.
Okay.
I'm not sure. But yeah, like I said, the biggest story here, and again, I do not want to take away from the Florida Panthers because they deserve to win. They are the champions. That's fine. They deserve to win. But it's a bigger story that Edmonton shit the bed than it is that Florida actually won. It's because there's a lot of things that come after that. There's a lot of issues, right? So these poor guys, these poor players have to go back to Edmonton and face the music. And they should have to. If you're going to look at the passion in Edmonton. Any of you guys that watch the games in Edmonton, I mean, the passion is unparalleled. There are no other NHL teams that have that much passion in the rink, out of the rink, all of this kind of stuff. Can't argue it. Some guy the other day said something on one of the Panthers fan pages about how it's just as loud in Florida, and one Panthers fan was like, sorry, bro. No, it's not. It's not even close. The passion. So if you're going to get to the finals and you're going to enjoy that passion, you're going to have to take the other side of it when you lose and you don't play well. You have to take it on the chin. If you want to play in Edmonton, you are going to have to take it on the chin when you lose. These people are pissed off. They've been to the Stanley Cup final 3 times in the last 19 years, and have lost 2 in game 7 and 1 in game 6. How do you expect us to feel? You should have to face the music. And they're going to. People are not going to let this go. There's no way.
Joey Kelly writes in, he says, at the Elbow Room, they chanted 8 more years to the crowd. So Sam Bennett's not going anywhere, which the question is Marchand, because Ekblad has said he wants to stay. So that is up to Brad Marchand, because to be honest, I know this has kind of got a real Canadian flair, and Lou has just checked in from Michigan, and Michigan is honorary Canadian province, even though it's the USA. The Leafs have entered the chat on Marchand. They want him. And they think in Toronto, as you know, that if they want him, they'll get him, and that everybody wants to play for Toronto. And I can't speak for Marchand. Can't speak for anybody but myself. Can't speak where Sam Bennett's going to go, but I don't think it's a slam dunk that Marchand is going anywhere. Do you think that he's going to take the biggest deal off money-wise? Or like Getzlaf said he always wanted to play in Canada. So maybe Marchand's that. I don't know. Everybody's different.
That's the thing. Everybody is different, because if you look at Marchand, he played in a hockey market his whole career. So maybe he doesn't care about that. I don't know. Maybe Sam Bennett's like, screw it, I'd rather stay here. I don't know. It's so hard. But again, like I've said on the whole year about this, hockey is a business. And I think there are guys that are like, you know what? I just won 2 Stanley Cups. Like, I'm good. I'd rather go play where I want to play. And then there's guys that are like, oh no, I want to try for a 3-peat. It's different strokes.
Yeah, Marchand's already going to the Hall of Fame. He's the first guy in NHL history to score 5 or more goals in a Stanley Cup final for 2 different teams. Like, it's unbelievable. He should be going to work for Dairy Queen is what he should be doing. I'd love to see the till receipts on blizzards in the last month ever since the Carolina series. Captain Lou says, Serena's right. You get chills watching the Edmonton crowd before each game. That scene is electric. I think it is the loudest arena in the NHL. Not that that matters. I mean, to be honest, I don't think the Panthers would have wanted this to go to Game 7. With the Oilers' effort, that was never going to happen. But that would have been quite a scene, wouldn't it?
It would have been bedlam. But just like all the other, realistically, all of the playoff games in Edmonton get pretty wild. You know, like I said, if it was a matter of passion, there's no question here. But it doesn't work like that. The people that want their team to win more don't always win. It's not the way it goes. And if it was the way, well, it'd be a little different story here. But Edmonton just has got to, I don't even know if digging deep is going to be enough, because last year, if that wasn't enough of a kick in the balls, I don't know what was. There's no way this, like, it just picked the scab a little bit. There's no way this is doubly as bad. Last year had to be absolutely painful for them. I don't know what more they can, realistically, they're going to have to make something. They're going to have to make a big trade. They're going to have to do something. Not because I feel like this guy's got to go other than Bouchard or Nurse, but that's just my pissed offness talking. But something
I don't know.
Something has to happen.
What they're going to do. I don't know what they're going to do. They've changed coaches. They've changed GMs. They've done everything. And as I've pointed out over the last few days, the Panthers don't have one skater making over $9 million. Like, Barkov's at 8. Kachuk's at 8. Reinhart is at 8, maybe even a little less than that. Bob's the only guy in double digits millions, and he's earned it at 10 million. Whereas you're going to have McDavid and Draisaitl at 15 million, and that's the rub. Do you want the high-end stars? Because the Flames would love to have those guys, right? Or do you spread it around? There's no formula. You know, that's what the Oilers need to figure out.
I think what they did when they signed Draisaitl to that big contract was they were stating, this is what we need to win. We're not going to just let this guy go. You know, you look at guys like Corey Perry, and like I don't even really think Corey Perry had that great of a final compared to how he was playing earlier in the playoffs. And so it's like, what do you do with all the money? You know, they talk about the Corey Perry curse. But, and I don't believe in stuff like that, but it's like, oh man, Can we
Yeah.
get Pat Maroon out of retirement, please? Because he's the guy that wins all the friggin' Stanley Cups. And for the record, I was the one that was the most pissed off when Edmonton got rid of Pat Maroon. They should have kept him. Mark my words. I said that a long time ago.
Just today in the news wire up here, it was Corey Perry has lost 5 Stanley Cups in the last 6 years. But they're like, had the Oilers won, he would have set a record for the biggest time difference between Stanley Cup wins, 2007 to 2025, which never happened. But I'm like, he's a winner, so he's not a jinx. That's my take on that. But just silly little things that everybody talks about. Well, that's kind of all that I have. The Stanley Cup Parade is on June 22nd. That's Sunday for those that are going. And I've already got plans in place. We might have a live broadcast from there. We'll see. I don't think you'll be there, Serena. So we'll say for those that are going, stay safe, stay dry. So many people say it changed their life last year and they get to do it again. Any last words?
Fuck it.
She's out.
I'm
Thank
out.
you, everybody, for a great season. Maybe we'll see you next year here on Cats and Bolts.
Sorry, Benny, we jumped the gun on you there. It's like, oh, we're done.